yeah, it feels the same. Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, we're gonna be going over a 2021 Jeep Wrangler Rubicon that has been converted by AEV. This thing is an absolute monster. But first and foremost, a huge shout out and thank you to the Jeep Chrysler here in Sandy, Utah for giving me some time with this AEV Wrangler. Check out their inventory in the link below. They have cool AEVs like this and then a bunch of other Jeep Wranglers and Gladiators as well. So definitely check them out, but let's get straight into the video. Under the hood, we have a naturally aspirated 3.6 liter V6 that goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission. Power outputs are 285 horsepower and then 260 pound-feet of torque. And then they have upgraded the axle ratio to be 4.56 up from the 410 that you get from the factory. Let's go over the rest of the front end of the AEV Wrangler. So first off, over here on the hood, you've got the really cool venting that comes standard with the Rubicon. And then AEV has added this kind of like pinstripe type design here on the hood. I think it looks really cool. Still get the Rubicon lettering, still get the full LED lights with the LED turn signal. And then AEV has added these really cool LED lights here at the front. They do have coverings on them when you're not using them, which is a nice little touch. And then just down below, we've got the fog lights and then just the custom bumper from AEV as well. And then notice that it does come with a winch. So yes, this is all set up for the off-road. You've got the illumination, you've got the winch, you've got everything. Now, coming on the side here, you've got 17-inch wheels, and wrapped around that, we've got 37s, which are absolutely massive, and they look fantastic here on the Wrangler. And then in terms of suspension, you've got the 2.5-inch dual sport RT suspension set up with this, and you guys can see kind of like a little bit of a look with that. But you probably noticed already by the stance just how much higher this sits between the tires and the suspension compared to a stock Rubicon Wrangler. And then this does also have a steering stabilizer added to it, which obviously helps out. But yeah, just look at this side view between the giant mud flaps there in the back and the tires and everything. Like, this is how the Wrangler should come from the factory. Pop in the back of the AEV Wrangler. So first off, we've got just our floor mats here in the back. Nothing crazy there, just the regular Jeep floor mats. And then you get this cool little bag here in the back as well. But the coolest part is underneath here, you actually do get a speed calibration that comes with it. So if you ever have any issues for some reason, boom, AEV's already taken care of you on that. And then there is a 12 volt back here, and then just like all the other Wranglers, this is already body colored here, so if you do take off the top, it still will look good. And then it also comes with the Alpine sound system. But other than that, that is the back of the AEV Wrangler. Let's go over the rest of the rear of the AEV Wrangler. So just like all the other upgraded Rubicons, you do have the full LED lights here, and then look how massive the tire is in the back. You still get the backup camera in the regular region. They still made sure that that worked. And then this also does come with the auxiliary gas tank here in the back, so you can go on longer off-road excursions. And then there's just a little LED light pod there in the very rear on the bottom. And then this is a full custom AEV bumper here on the rear as well. And you get another little AEV logo with more of the blacked out trim right there. But other than that, that is the back, and just enjoy this view because it's a nice view. Pop in the rear here. So first off, we got the armrest with the soft touch and the red stitching. Still get the signature door handle. And then coming to the seats, you've got the AEV headrest. It's cool to see the embroidery there, so even your back passengers will know, hey, this is an AEV Wrangler. Full soft touch for the rest of the seat. Now the interesting part is getting in. So there is a grab handle, but obviously I'm holding the camera with that hand. Do have to step up quite a bit to get in. I'm 5'11". If I sit all the way up, I still have some headroom. And then legroom is pretty solid, and you got a little net right here. And then if you know what these are, then you know what these are. We've got some vents here in the back, the window controls in the center, a full power outlet, and then this pulls down to be a little armrest with some cup holders. But that's the back of the AEV Wrangler. Let's go over the door panel here at the front. So we've got the stitching just down below with more of the soft touch, and then you got a little door handle there with the mirror adjustments, the door lock and unlock. And then it says Wrangler just down below. And then we have the seats here at the front. Again, you've got the AEV headrest, but then you've got the Rubicon just down below. Again, soft touch over the whole seats with a nice stitching right here. And then the seats are manually adjustable. Got the pedal layout there at the bottom portion. Light controls right here. So you've got the regular light control, then you have the fog lights. The steering wheel is manually adjustable, and there's when we're looking before we pop in. Here's the steering wheel in the AEV Wrangler. So we've got the soft touch around the whole steering wheel with the stitching there in the center. You've got the cruise control right here, and then you got the controls for the center stack with your voice command and phone controls, all that kind of stuff. And then there are radio controls on the back of the steering wheel. Got your little stock there for the turn signal, and then you got the windshield wipers just there on the other side. And that is the steering wheel for the AEV Wrangler. Now here's the gauge cluster. You do have the AEV gauges there on either side for the analog gauges, which look really nice. And then there in the center, you still have the little screen that gives you different bits of information on the Wrangler. Just like any of the other 2021 Wranglers I've reviewed, it has all the same stuff, so nothing has changed with that little part of the system. Here's the center infotainment system. So we've got vents on either side. And then as for the screen itself, response time on the screen is really good. You do get the heated seats and the heated steering wheel, and like I said, the backup camera, it still functions the same. Nothing has changed, even though you have a massive 37-inch tire there on the back. And then yeah, other than that, again, the screen functions the same. It has all the same stuff on it. You still get the off-road pages, and while those load up, just down below you still have all of your same analog controls for the radio, for the climate system, for the heated seats and the heated steering wheel. And then you got your screen off button, your hill descent control, that's for the parking sensors, your stability control, your auto stop start, and then this is the little mute button. And then we have the off-road pages that have conveniently popped up. So again, that is all the same. Just down below, we've got our window controls here in the center, and then you got a little 12 volt right here, and then you have this little charging area. And we do have a bunch of buttons for auxiliary items. So like if you add lights to the front and then a little light pod to the rear, like what this has, then you can just have them wired into the auxiliary buttons, which is nice. And that's cool that the Jeep has that from the factory to allow for stuff like that, make it a lot easier. And then we do have the front and rear lockers here. You can just do the rear only or front and rear, because this is a Rubicon, so it comes with that from the factory. You've got your off-road plus and then your sway bar disconnect, and then we've got our drive line select. So you have your 2-wheel high, your 4-wheel auto, your 4-wheel part-time. It's kind of interesting that you have like two different that are almost, it's weird how they have that set up where you've got the auto and then you've got the 4-wheel high part-time. Anyways, and then you got the 4-wheel low just down below that, and then you do have the shifter for the 8-speed automatic, which you can shift the gears yourself, and it's got the nice leather and the red stitching on it. Now in this whole area, we still have the cup holder with the key holder, and then the brake with the red stitching, and then the center console with more red stitching that has the double opening. And yes, this does have the AEV business cards in it, because I mean, well, you gotta get all your friends hooked up with an AEV as well. Got the Wrangler grab handle here with the nice red there at the top portion, and then the glove box is just down below. But that's that whole part of the interior. And last thing is actually just up top. So just like all the other Wranglers, you can take off this part of the top. You just have to use these little latches right here, and then another little AEV thing. And then for the back, you do have to use tools, but it's not too difficult to get off. And with all that being said, let's get into the pricing. As you can see, we do have the sticker here for this Wrangler. So you guys can see the standard equipment that this particular one comes with. And sorry if the camera kind of pops in and out of focus. It's just hard for this to get like a visual on it because it's there in a window. But you guys can see the base price of the AEV package, and then you can see all the options this has. Feel free to freeze the frame if you'd like. You can see the total price down there though, $80,155. And that all being said, well, let's take this AEV Wrangler out and see how it drives. Well, let's quickly talk about visibility before we set off here in this AEV Wrangler. So first off, visibility of the hood is unchanged compared to any Wrangler, even though this has this crazy AEV package on it. Still the same visibility of the hood. Visibility through the mirrors is the same, and this does come with blind spot monitoring. And then here's all throughout the rest of the rear. The only place where visibility is really impeded is because that tire and fuel tank are so massive there in the very back. They do get in the way a little bit, but other than that, you still get the same visibility. And that all being said, well, let's set off. We are initially setting off here in this AEV Wrangler, and this is going to be the exciting part so we can actually kind of see how this drives. Now, I do want to mention before I actually start driving this, if you guys aren't familiar with me, then I actually own a 2020 Ford Raptor right now. So obviously that's a crazy off-roading vehicle, but I'm going to make a lot of comparisons to this and the Raptor, because even though they're a lot different, right? The Raptor's high-speed off-roading, where this is all about rock crawling. I still think there's a pretty good amount of comparisons you can make between them, and they're both about $80,000. So, right, it makes sense. But initially setting off, let's talk about the road noise and the ride quality. So this particular Wrangler does not have the insulation there at the top. So you do hear a little bit more wind noise compared to a Wrangler that does. Definitely recommend that's a really cheap modification. And you know, if you're already spending $80,000, then you know, what's another couple $100, I believe it's what it costs for those. But other than that, I mean, you still have the normal Wrangler stuff. The tire noise, I'm actually really impressed with that. I hear a little bit more tire noise, but it's not bad. It's not like it's substantially louder compared to a stock Wrangler. If you get like a Wrangler with the mud terrain tires from the factory, it's gonna be a little bit louder than this. So it's kind of like right in between. The suspension, that is the interesting part. I actually really like this suspension. So I can feel this on road. There's quite a bit of lean from side to side when I'm going around corners. And I know some people might not like that on road. They're gonna be like, well, that's gonna be kind of annoying. But if you think about this from an off-road application standpoint, then that means that when you're going over bumps and undulations and everything, it's going to be a lot smoother because it's going from side to side versus just hitting really hard. So from a suspension standpoint, this thing is really solid. And yeah, I can just imagine this thing would absolutely destroy it on the off-road. And you might actually be able to do some high-speed off-roading in this just because of how good this suspension handles stuff. In terms of the torque, it's actually pretty good. I mean, this has a lot of tire to move, and you guys heard the power figures, 285 horsepower. It's not a ton, but because of the re-gearing, this actually does a really good job. It doesn't feel really any slower compared to a stock Wrangler. And let me get a full-blown acceleration here just to... Yeah, it feels the same. That re-gearing did a really good job with making this feel about the same. Now, with the re-gearing, yes, this is gonna get worse fuel economy, but if you're buying an $80,000 Wrangler, then you're probably not worried about fuel economy. That's just my guess. But let's get into summing things up here with this AEV Wrangler. So first off, from an exterior aesthetics perspective, AEV killed it with the stuff they've added to the Wrangler. It's not like excessive, it just makes it look a whole lot more aggressive. Obviously gives it that off-roader look, and it makes it a lot more capable. And then from an interior perspective, it's pretty much the same as a stock Rubicon, which this is a really nice interior for an off-road SUV, so no complaints there. And then from the driving perspective, the re-gearing is fantastic. It makes it feel just as quick as a stock Rubicon. And then from the rest of the stuff, you know, the suspension, all that kind of stuff, I can tell, you know, I'd love to take one of these off-road. Like AEV, if you're watching this video, you should let me take one of these off-road because that would be an awesome video. But I can tell with the suspension, this would be really smooth over bumps and everything. And not only could you take this rock crawling and it would do a really good job because it's a Rubicon Wrangler, you could also do some higher speed off-roading with this, and you're not going to be hitting super hard over stuff because of how good the suspension setup is on this Rubicon. And there you go, guys, an $80,000 AEV Wrangler.